Hi readers, I'm Annie. You'll have already seen the title and the thumbnail of this video, so you know exactly what we're reading, but let me tell you the reason. I have previously tried to read Haunting Adeline. I re-downloaded it on my Kindle, and supposedly I got 47% of the way through. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked because I'm convinced I got like maybe 20% of the way through, because 47 is quite far for me to get to and then DNF a book, especially considering when I read this I was like very much not in the practice of DNFing books. However, the reason that I'm picking this back up after I'm pretty sure swearing blind that I was never going to touch this book with a barge pole is because I am so confused by it. The reason I'm confused is because whenever I speak to anyone who has read it or wants to read it, you get half the people saying, oh my god, I hated it, it was so traumatic, I literally cannot even consider talking about this book because I'm like still genuinely traumatized, or you get people being like, oh my god, I love it, I'm obsessed, like he is my favorite book boyfriend of all time. Having read 47% of it, I'm sat there going, how? Like, I'm just straight confused. Like, I can't even justify my confusion. I am that level of confused. However, when you look on Goodreads, it has a 3.96 star rating at like 500,000 ratings, okay? It's not a small feat to get to that star rating, okay? When you look at the breakdown, 43% of people rated it 5 star and only 6% of people rated it 1 star. There is a very clear love for this book online, and yet still when I speak to people, they sit there and they go, oh my god, it was just like so traumatic, and it feels like there's a minority of people that will like actively say, oh my god, I loved it. I went over the blurb and everything when I did my October TBR. If you haven't seen that, do go check out that video, but let's just have a look at some of the warnings with this. So I remember at one point someone saying that the warnings had to be taken off of Amazon, the book got banned or something, and that was kind of what made me pick it up initially, and then obviously it's been kind of like re-uploaded. And on Amazon and Goodreads it does say the book ends on a cliffhanger. For content warnings, please check the author's website. And I feel like, again, this is kind of one of those things of like, I don't know if I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that the list of content warnings was significantly larger than what I have here. So if we look on H.D. Carlton's website, it says, for tropes, it is a stalker romance, villain to lovers, touch her and die, love/hate, and a happy ever after, which I feel doesn't really tell you how truly messed up this book is. Like, I can't even think of another word, okay? And when you go to triggerwarningdatabase.com, which is a new find for me, and actually I really love this, you've got child sex trafficking, rape, sexual assault, dubious consent, blood and gore depiction, murder, torture, kidnapping, stalking. I am convinced when I first picked this up that there was a whole lot more trigger warnings than just this list. Like, I don't feel like this is an exhaustive list. And that kind of makes me scared. If any of those are trigger warnings for you, please click off this video because your mental health is worth so much more than a book, honestly. This vlog is also going to run a little bit differently to how I've kind of been doing my vlogs recently. Recently I've been really loving like the chilled, laid back kind of thing, but this is going to be like very check-in heavy. The main reason that I'm reading this is I kind of want to work out why people love it. Is it like, did I DNF it last time because like this is just like really not for me? Like, I've kind of been getting back a little bit into the kind of the dark romance side of things, and I feel like when I read it last, which to be fair I don't actually know when that was, I feel like it was like early 2022. It was definitely not last year, it was definitely before, like it was definitely like 2022 sometime, I'm pretty sure. And I feel like that was the point at which that I like maybe wasn't really into dark romance as much anymore, so I wonder if it's just like it was not like the timing for the book, which is totally fair because I've said it before, I'll say it 100 times, there is a time for every single book. This book terrifies me as well as intrigues me, honestly. It's 538 pages on my Kindle, and I literally have mine set to like the smallest text. How do I go back to the beginning? Take me to the start, unfortunately. Here we go. Important note. Yeah, it's definitely important. None of these conspiracies derive from anti-Semitism or QAnon, but from my own demented imagination. Okay, at least we're self-aware. Common conspiracies in the media and many occult horror movies my dad used to watch growing up. This book ends on a cliffhanger. This is like a two-parter, and it does recommend that you read the prologue first, but honestly I have literally zero interest in reading the second part or reading the prologue, honestly. If I get to the end of this book and I for some reason have enjoyed this, then I might consider it, but I think I will be shocked if that happens. I don't see myself enjoying this, to be completely honest, and I never go into a book thinking I'm not gonna enjoy this, but there's just like, there's like some like really twisted part of me that is like, I need to understand it, which is why we're here. The contents are very dark with triggering situations such as non/dubious consent between the main characters, graphic violence, human trafficking, stalking, child trafficking, child sacrifice, mentions of a child death, and explicit sexual situations. There are also particular kinks such as gunplay, somnophilia, bondage, and degradation. This book was previously taken down due to the warning, but you can also find them in reviews on my website, or feel free to message me directly. Your mental health matters. Yes, I do like that last line, because your mental health does matter. So if you're still here and any of those new things that popped up are a hard no for you, please do quit out of this video. There will always be more videos, but your mental health truly does matter. I am mildly concerned. I'm not 100% sure why I'm here as yet. I'm still rocking my pajamas and it is definitely like 6 p.m. and I don't care. We're going to do a lot of check-ins in this video. This is probably going to be a little bit of a longer video because of the amount of check-ins I'm going to be doing. If you do want to read this and you don't want spoilers, this is probably not the video for you because I fully intend to talk about every little thing in this book. Like, I'm going to be like full on taking notes, okay? Like, I am taking this so seriously. I guess I should stop putting it off then, huh? Let's get into the crazy world of Haunting Adeline. Because I have to have the light on first thing in the morning because it's still too drab to just not have lights on. It is sad. This is why I'm not a big fan of autumn and winter. The only day that is acceptable is Halloween itself. But let's talk about Haunting Adeline. So I got up to chapter 7 last night and I don't know if I'm just like gaslighting myself or it's like the bad bits haven't really quite started yet, but it's not that bad so far. Like, it's not like super creepy. I mean, it's kind of creepy. He's like straight up stalking her from like chapter 3. Like, I think literally one of the first sentences is her already admitting that she's not completely sane. That just kind of sets the tone for the whole thing, honestly. Like, when I said I was taking notes, you guys, like literally I'm taking notes. I'm not going to go through like literally every single thing that I've written because otherwise we are literally going to be here for like hours. In chapter 1 they have this like moment, like the typical like romance moment of like being able to pick them out of a crowd. Let me tell you, like, I've never been able to do that with my husband. And he's got a very distinctive look and I still can't see him when he's stood right in front of me. But they have that like super special thing. Then she ends up like having a hookup. She's like stood there in the hallway with these paintings of like her ancestors and stuff like looking at her and she's like, yeah, actually this isn't that great, and I don't actually really like you. And then she has, like, this girl, like, Addie has a lot of intrusive thoughts and they are kind of mucked up. Her brain is not okay. Like, she needs a therapist, honestly, and I feel like probably most of this book could be avoided if they both just signed themselves up for therapy. She's, like, with this hookup, and she's like, oh, he's scared of spiders. Maybe I'll just, like, reach into the lamp, the wall lamp above my head, pluck out spider and put it down his shirt. My phobia is, like, screaming, oh my god, run away from this weirdo. So I feel like in this chapter 1, like, we really get to see, like, how she thinks, really. I feel like it does kind of, like, set the premise for the rest of the book, because, like, I feel like it very much kind of, like, leads into this whole thing of, yeah, she doesn't think like regular people. Just expect that as we continue on this story. And I'm like, okay then. So it kind of just, like, continues on that way. So I feel like we get quite a bit of, like, this is what I mean, is it's actually written really well, because, like, I know exactly, like, I've completely pegged her as a character. Like, I know exactly who she is. And then chapter 2 is his chapter. Like, I don't know if all, like, and that one of the other chapters is his in this segment. Yeah, so chapter 2 and chapter 6 are his. I don't know if everyone is, like, justifying him as a book boyfriend, because he's, like, set up this organization to get rid of this human trafficking ring, and everyone's like, oh, but he's secretly a good guy. And I'm like, one good deed, okay, granted it's a very good deed, I'm sorry, Mr. Vigilante, you can't just, like, go off and do this. Like, how many superhero things have we watched where, like, the guy's a vigilante and then it's like the police are constantly coming after you? Like, just because you're technically doing something good does not necessarily excuse you. Like, you've got a lot of creepiness. You've got a lot of creepy going on. I know that there's, like, some stuff still yet to, like, come out in these first few chapters of, like, who he is and what he does as a job and stuff, because I've already read, like, nearly half of it. But, like, I'm just like, seriously? We're gonna excuse this? I don't think so. Or at least I'm not. Anyway, I don't particularly like him. I'll be straight honest with you. I don't really like him. And then we start to see the great-grandmother character, Gigi. And we see her in, like, solely these, like, little excerpts from her diary. And she has a stalker as well. And she falls in love with her stalker as well. So clearly it's either genetic or there's something in the water in this house. I have to say, I do quite like a lot of the, like, ghosty metaphors. Like, when she's, like, walking around the house and she's like, I think I keep seeing apparitions, and then it, like, suddenly gets cold when she looks at certain paintings and she's like, I swear I could see my breath, but then it was, like, gone in an instant. I quite enjoy that because I feel like it adds just, like, a random little element to it. I have no idea if that turns out to be anything. I think that would be so fun if that is just, like, casually ghost. It would just be, like, so random and so out there. And then, oh yeah, and then the roses start. So the roses are kind of like his calling card to be like, hey, I've been in your house. Bit weird, but okay. And, like, he leaves a rose on, like, her kitchen island. And then another time he has, like, a glass of whiskey and then leaves a rose on the kitchen island, but, like, leaves the glass with, like, a little bit of whiskey in it, right? So he's clearly drunk some of it. Literally, my note here is, I'm sorry, why would you not call the police and get the whiskey glass fingerprinted? Do not touch it, you dumb bee. I'm like, why? Because when she does eventually call the police, they're like, oh, like, random roses around your house isn't really enough to, like, start a proper, like, report or start an investigation or anything. Like, it's not really a thing. And she's like, oh, like, I kind of knew it wasn't gonna be enough. And I'm like, you had a whiskey glass that would have had prints, would have had DNA, like, he clearly drank from it. Like, why did you not phone them? Why would you touch it? And why would you not phone them straight away? Like, there's, like, a genuine evidence. Like, okay, he could, like, possibly, like, burn his fingerprints off or whatever, but, like, that's still his DNA. He's still drunk from the glass. Like, his DNA will be there somewhere. Why would you not phone the police? And this is precisely why I would not get murdered in a horror film, because everyone would be like, I'm gonna work out this, like, creepy noise. I'd be like, not a hope. I'm done. I'm out of here. No way. So I got up to chapter 7, which is only 13% of the way through. These chapters do feel, like, quite short and sweet, which I do appreciate, because, you know, sometimes I'm just not really here for big fantasy-esque chapters that just, like, take an age to get through. To be honest, I'm still trying to work out who's who, because Addie is called the Manipulator and Zaid is called the Shadow. But honestly, when it comes up at the top of the chapters, I'm sat there going, whose is it? And then I have to, like, read, like, a paragraph or two to work out, like, who I'm actually reading about, because I forget half the time. Like, what was wrong with just calling them Addie and Zaid? Thank you. I would have appreciated that. Just saying.
go.
Okay, so this has taken me a lot longer to read than I think I initially thought it was going to, but then it also kind of makes sense because I am taking notes, so I can only really read when I have my notebook and stuff with me, and when it's like convenient timing to just like really sit for a couple of chapters and just like delve straight into it, whereas like usually I would just read a little bit here and there, and that's how I would kind of usually get through books. But oh my god, okay, so we're kind of starting to get into this. I've just got up to chapter 13, which is 27% of the way through. So like I said, it is kind of slow progress, but where are we at? So we're finally starting to get into stuff. So one of the big things that I do kind of remember from the first time I read this, but one of the big things that happens is the guy, she ends up with bloody hands on her doorstep in a box, and it's really creepy. Dea, the best friend, supposedly, I'll come to that in a minute because I don't think she is, but Dea is like, oh, here, let's get you a hookup. Ends up with a guy called Archibald. What kind of a name is Archibald? They go home, he thinks that he's actually gonna like go out and confront Zaid, the stalker, and it's like, chill. He goes out after there's like a knock on the front door. You see it, I think, in one of the next chapters. He's taken away, he's murdered, he's cut up, like the rest of his family gets murdered as well. And then the hands get dumped on her doorstep as like a warning. And there's all these like ominous notes of like, don't call the cops. And it's like, you should not be listening to this guy. Like, you should be phoning the police. Like, please, it's driving me insane. And yes, I get that the police are not being particularly helpful when they have been phoned, but like, it is just driving me nuts. I can see why people are justifying Zaid as a character, because it's like, oh, he's against all this human trafficking and he's built up this organization to like, you know, help these kids and like save them and this, that and the other. And then it's like, yeah, okay, so he kills Archibald, but like Archibald DV'd his ex-wife, you know, isn't a very nice guy, and his family is all willing to all sorts of, do you know what? Like, I don't even know what his family are into, but they're apparently a bunch of bad eggs. I was kind of not really paying attention because I was like, he's dead already. What difference does that make? They're a bunch of bad people, right? So they're all dead now. So, you know, that's a thing. And of course, there's no, like, evidence. There's no idea who done it. And I'm sat there going, I know who done it. I know who done it. It was this guy, this creepo. Like, how is this hard? And then, of course, the police are like, oh, we don't have a report for you. Obviously, he's gone and deleted them or something. Either that or the police are just genuinely really that bad. I don't know. And then I get a little bit annoyed because as stressed out as I am reading this book, because, like, Addie is not even making questionable decisions. She is just questionable. From start to finish. It's not even just the decisions, just everything is just questionable, honestly. The bit that kind of gets me is like when we're getting like a fight scene, or like Zaid's like doing this like releasing of the kids and there's like a fight scene. Like, it's written really well, and like the imagery, and to be fair, the imagery throughout the whole thing is like really on point, and you like really feel like you're there, and it's really immersive. And I'm like, from a literature perspective, okay, yeah, like it's written really well, and you just like, you feel like you're there. Like, the imagery is just like perfect. So I'm like, yeah, I kind of enjoy that. The content, I'm not as much of a huge fan of. And I am convinced that Dea is not really her best friend and has secretly been lying to her this entire time. And I don't actually think Dea is even her name. And okay, I did say that I'd read about just under 50% of this book previously. I can't remember it, to be honest. I think I literally like remember like 2 bits, and one of them was the hands. The other one I think we're getting to shortly. I don't really remember much about like the intricacies of the characters and stuff. So I don't think that Dea's actually, 1, her name, 2, she's not a friend, 3, like, yeah, okay, appreciate you taking me to your house, like, you know, after mine was like broken into and there's roses everywhere. She's like, oh yeah, you know, she has this like top secret job and she can't tell me what it is because her boss is like really funny about it being like all like super top secret. She's like really good at hacking, and I'm like, like this is just adding up in a way that I don't appreciate. Like, I just get bad vibes off of her now. Like, at the beginning I was like, oh, it's good that you have a friend, like, you clearly need one. And now I'm like, she's not really your friend, because I feel like she's secretly one of Zaid's employees, and it's like, what the heck? And like, he literally says at one point, he's like, oh, my employees installed like my own security system so I can just boop on my phone and get in. And then like, when he does that, like, Daya's then like checking the tapes the morning after, and she's like, my god, this is done so well. The only reason I can tell that someone has gone in and altered this is, one, because you said he was here and I trust you, friend, and two, because like, this is what I do for a living and I can see that it's done really well. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic? Like, I do not trust this woman. Grandma is just living her best hoe life. I'm sorry, I've got no other words for her. She's living her best hoe life, and she's gonna get offed for it. Well, I mean, we know she gets offed, but she's gonna get offed for it. I'm convinced the stalker did it. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out. Like, I'm not a mystery girly, okay? I'm very bad at knowing who the murderer is, but I just know. The bit with like the senators and the blood magic-y ritually bit, honestly, where the heck was Warner Huntington III? Because he seems like the type that would do that. And I totally did not watch Legally Blonde last night. Yeah. But also, like, where there's so much like paranormally, witchy, occulty stuff, and like, I know at the beginning it was like there is stuff in there, and I was like, oh yeah, like occult rituals, stuff like that, like, yeah, okay, fine, because like stuff like that actually happens. But then he's like, oh, there's like ghosts, like this house is haunted, like there's ghosts in this house, while he's like sat there drinking glass, and I'm like, you are the one haunting this house with your whiteness, Brian. I'm not very funny, but I do make myself laugh. So I'm like, I don't quite understand where the ghosty, paranormally stuff is really coming from, and I don't quite know how I feel about it yet, because I'm like, well, surely there isn't gonna be like actual legit magic and actual legit ghosts and stuff. Like, this is already creepy enough as it is, like this is already kind of screwed up enough as it is, like surely we're not gonna add that to it, right? Also, relocking the door after you break in does not make you a good person, sir. And that is all I have to say up to the end of chapter 12. I don't like him as a character. I don't really like her as a character. I don't trust anyone in this book. To be fair, the only person I trust is Gigi living her best hoe life, honestly, because she's just out here doing what she's doing. And I'm like, okay, fair, I have a bit of respect for that. The rest of them, I don't really care about. And I have like zero attachment to. And I'm sat there and I'm just like, I don't know if I don't care about the story just yet. Like, I think I have enough questions that I'm intrigued enough to keep going. I feel like this time around I'm reading it more, like I'm kind of like going a little bit more in depth with it. I'm like really taking it in, and I think like making the notes kind of helps. And it's kind of the same sort of vibe as when you're annotating and stuff. Like, I feel like you read it rather than just like skim read it, so I do appreciate that. And I do feel like I'm, I guess, maybe understanding it, because like where I'm like reading it, I'm like, okay, like I get like the imagery is really, really good. Like I can really clearly see a picture in my head, and like the fight scenes and stuff are like really, really good, and I can really see it, but not loving it, I think is definitely fair to say. So I'm basically roughly 10% before I gave up last time. I feel like I am close to giving up again, and I really hate that, because kind of the point of this challenge was to basically push through it and just like keep going and work out why people love this book. And let me tell you, like, I can't work it out, honestly. If you like this book, please message me, because I'm confused. I really genuinely am. I don't get it. It makes me uncomfortable, and that's the only thing that I really feel for this, is uncomfortable, which I don't like. I don't like it. Literally just in chapter 15, like the whole point of him like getting rid of Archibald was because supposedly Archie's a really bad person and he doesn't know how to treat women properly and this, that and the other. And then he's like chasing her through the house being like, I'm gonna punish you. And then like whips out a gun. If you've read this book, you know exactly what's about to happen. If you haven't read this book, I'm very sorry to say, he's about to put it somewhere where guns should never go. It's just weird. It's just creepy. It's disgusting. Like, my brain instantly goes to that's so unsanitary. Let alone the fact that it's freaking dangerous. It's so uncomfortable. And I really hate it. Granted, I've not read that many dark romances and things, and like I've not read some that are like this. Okay, I've definitely never read anything else that is this dark and this like screwed up. I don't know if this is like a normal trope or a normal scene in a dark romance, but honestly, I can't get on board with it. I really can't. Like, I just feel so uncomfortable. I know that I am like my house is like my safe place, and like that's not going to change anytime soon regardless of this book. When you read certain bits and then like houses creak because they just do that, and then I'm like, wait, and then I'm like, no, I'm not in that house. Like, it's so, like, it's written so well that it is really, really immersive. And, like, you literally feel like you're there and you're, like, fully transported in. It's written really well. Just the content is just, I don't think I could do it. Oh my god. I'm gonna at least get to the 46%. I don't want to read this next chapter because I remember what happens now and it's really creepy. And I kind of want to skip the next chapter. It's just, it makes me feel a little bit sick. Honestly, I'm literally sat here going like, girl, you're gonna get an infection from this. It's not gonna be nice. I think I'll be surprised if I keep going because I'm so uncomfortable right now. I just don't think I can do it. Ugh, he's so gross. I really hate this. I really hate this. Ew. This man did not take a gun safety class, clearly. Oh my god, I really hate this. I really hate this. What is wrong with you? It's like watching a train wreck and you can't look away, but you just really want, I really hate this. It's so gross. What the heck? Why am I doing this to myself? Like, I knew this was in here. I read it last time. Why am I doing this to myself? I have to like skim read this because it's so grim. I can't. No. I actually really can't do this. I am quitting at 35%, less than I read last time. I am quitting Haunting Adeline again. This is 100% the final. I am never gonna force myself to read this again. Like this, I just don't get it. And I get that like everyone's got a thing and like never yuck someone's yum and like that's not what I'm trying to do. I wanted to understand why people like this. I just can't get over some parts of the characters of the story. And I've said this multiple times throughout this video, I think the actual writing is so well done, like it's so detailed, I'm like fully there. And I think that's the bit that's kind of making it worse for me, is because like I feel like I'm there and I hate it. Like I actually hate the content of this. Like it's just like, I'm so uncomfortable, I'm so creeped out. I'm stopping in the middle of the chapter. I just cannot force myself to continue. Reading that scene with the gun again, like I feel a little bit sick, I'm not gonna lie. And like if you enjoy this book, I'm not saying that you're like a bad person or anything. Please, I really hope no one takes it that way, because like, you know, everyone has to have something they like. There's a whole load of books that I like that my friends have not liked and vice versa. because guess what? There is a book out there for everyone, okay? Don't ever let someone tell you that a book you really love is awful, because there is always something good about a book. Whether you like it or not, there is always something good about a book. And you don't have to like every single book. And if you're an author like me, you don't have to write a book that everyone is gonna love. I'm gonna quote Casey Musgraves, and I don't quote songs very often, but she said, you can't be everyone's cup of tea, so just make it how you please. And let me tell you, it is the same with books. And this book is not my cup of tea. This book is like coffee to me, and I do not drink coffee, like at all. Like I just, no. Like I feel really stressed out right now, but I am gonna do my mental health a favor, and I am gonna quit this book, because as it says at the beginning with the trigger warnings, your mental health matters. Your mental health is more important than a book. And if that's all we take away from today, then it is an important lesson, so I'm gonna roll with it. Thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me, for watching that torture, for listening to me dive into the first 30-ish% of this book. I cannot take any more of it. I really can't. I think I'm just gonna have to accept it as one of life's mysteries. I don't think I will ever understand this book, and I think I've come to the conclusion that I am totally okay with that. And maybe I don't need to understand it. Maybe I can just exist in a world where I never have to think about this book again. But do check out all of my links down in the description below, as well as a link to my own book. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing reading day. I will see you next time. Bye.